Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the history of Brazilian cinema and one of its most successful and famous movies, City of God. So the first screening of films in Brazil took place in 1896, only 6 months after the very first Lumiere brothers showing in Paris. From the year 1900, locally made films began to dominate Brazilian screens. The period 1908 to 1912 has been called the Bella Epoca, or the golden age of Brazilian cinema, where at least 100 short films were made each year. In the 1920s, filmmakers were independent and naturally leaned towards the avant-garde, where they made experimental movies. In the 1930s, a new, very Brazilian genre came to dominate its output, the chanchada, which was taken from the Hollywood backstage musicals mixed with Brazilian comedy. During this time, Carmen Miranda became a star and even starred in some Hollywood movies. Also, the careers of a great comic team, Oscarito and Grande Otelo, were developed. The greatest period in Brazilian cinema history, the Cinema Novo, started in the 1960s. Nelson Pereira dos Santos, the person who had the most influence on this movement, has been called the father of the movement. Santos adopted the principles of Italian neorealism, such as shooting on location, using non-professional actors, and dealing with contemporary, popular subject matter in a very simple, direct, non-dramatic manner. Another important figure to the movement was Glauber Rocha, who is now considered to be the greatest Brazilian director of all time. Some of his most famous movies include Barravento, Entrance Earth, and Black God, White Devil, which is his most important and most successful movie. Typically, the films of this movement dealt with things like starvation, violence, religious alienation, and economic exploitation. Directors from this movement liked to film in long takes, with jerky camera movements interlaced with jump cuts. Now, during the mid-1960s, democracy was increasingly undermined in Brazil by the authoritarian military dictatorship. Now, 30 years later, around 1995, the number of female directors increased. One of the most famous female directors at that time was Carla Camurati, and she made the movie Carlota Joaquina, the Brazilian Princess, in 1995. This movie took both Brazil and the world by storm with its brilliantly acted story of survival amid the gang warfare in the City of God. Now, covering a period of 2 decades from the 1960s up to the 1980s, this auteurist crime drama film shows life in a violent slum ghetto. What I really liked about this movie was that it was filled with experimental techniques, such as Matrix-style camera rotations and dolly shots, sped-up motion, frantic jump cut edits, a mobile handheld camera, freeze frames, frenzied strobe lighting in one scene, and this shot that I really liked, which was a POV of a ricocheting bullet. And finally, Eisensteinian montage. Something I also liked was that the movie started out with a bang. It started out with a full of energy, fast-paced credit sequence where people were chasing this chicken and things were crazy, and I was hooked. Now, I mentioned things that I liked about the movies, but one thing I really hated and disliked about the movie was the character Lil Zay. I mean, I really hated him. I've never hated a character as much as I hated Lil Zay. He's the nastiest, most evil character I've come across. He's just rotten to the core. In one horrifying scene, he tells a boy, roughly 10 or so, to kill one of 2 cornered youths around like 4 and 9 years old. And I think that says enough. I mean, yeah. I love that we got to see and experience everything through Rocket's eyes. We got to understand the algorithms of the city, the smells of the slums, and the problems that come from gangs and drugs. Morelle, the director of the movie, said in an interview that in a shot where we see Shaggy, Clipper, and Goose through the bumper of a gas truck is an homage to Charlie's Angels, where the three boys are all striking different poses with their weapons, like in the famous silhouette in the show. City of God is similar to the movie Goodfellas in story, as an outsider makes his way into the world of crime. It differs from the typical gangster movie, as in this movie, the protagonist is not a killer or a gangster, but the complete opposite. So that's it for this video. Hope you liked it, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something about Brazilian cinema, and I want to know your thoughts on the movie City of God. So leave your comments below. Thank you, bye!